And this is part 5 of fixing this old backhoe attachment. And it's kind of part 2 of installing a new boom lift cylinder. So if you missed the first part, or the last video, probably want to go and check that out first, because this video might make a little more sense then. But we're just kind of gonna continue where we left off and getting the hydraulic cylinder installed, and also build a guard for the rod to protect it from damage. And you can definitely see a little different in color, but it's not actually that bad. Or you can see there the water kind of makes it even, I don't know, it's like that actually. It's kind of different, maybe. But anyway, it's so all painted and rust protected now. So now we could just go and get the hydraulic cylinder put in place, but it's kind of likely that it will damage the rod again. So what I'd like to do is to build a little guard for it, kind of like, or at least smaller excavators have. And what I thought to do is just the rod is going to come in the middle, and it's going to be a bit of space on either side. So we'll just make a couple little rings that is going to sit on the pin, and then we'll just put one of these long nuts below that. And then we can just take a flat bar, bolt that to this, and then it can just go down. And then we'll have to make a little mount so you can mount to the hydraulic cylinder here, and also so it can slide back and forth, if that makes any sense. You'll see. But let's start with making these little rings, or whatever you want to call it. So I just swapped tools here, so let's just go and get this faced off and clean up the outside a little bit. now we're just going to make a 35mm hole so these pieces will fit on the pin to the hydraulic cylinder there. And I'm just starting out using a small drill bit, drilling a pilot hole, and then I'm just working my way up to a 30mm drill bit, and then just finishing it off with a boring bar, getting it to the final size. Dang it. That's kind of loose. I get it moved on me, and plus I got a bunch of chatter, so the surface finish is horrible, but it's not much to do about that. It's a little too big, but it's just more room for grease, so yeah. Anyway, let's just go ahead and swap tools here to part off tool and get two pieces parted off, and then just put them back in the chuck and clean them up a little bit. So I thought I was almost done, but I realized that I want a little grease groove in there. So I'll just put this back in the chuck and put the little boring bar in here. So we'll just make a little groove in there, so the grease can go all the way around and then get pushed out on either side. If not, if the grease fitting is right here, it's just, I think the grease is just gonna go in, but then it's just gonna go straight out and it's never gonna get any grease to the other side. And I think a little groove in there should help the grease to go all the way around. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now the grease should be able to go all the way around and then get pushed out. The only thing I'm not that happy is that surface finish in there that ended up getting kind of knurled. I don't know why it happened, but it doesn't matter. It's not really, well, it doesn't really matter. Now, just to clean some galvanizing off of this and then weld that onto there and onto there, like that. gonna remove a little paint, little paint in the hole here because I didn't bother mask it off. So the paint goes in. There we go. And then those two will just go on like that. And then the hydraulic cylinder can go in the middle. And then I thought we can just put a piece of flat bar, bolt that to these. We'll probably have to cut these off a bit, but then we can just put a flat bar down like this. And then have to mount that somehow so we can slide to the hydraulic cylinder. And I just thought to use this 5 by 80 mil flat bar. And then we can just take some of this 25 by 5 mil flat bar, I think. Weld that to the side like that. And then we can just take another little piece of the same flat bar and then just weld that out. So if it looks from the end here, the flat bar will go up and then it will go out. So it will be kind of a little U shape on either side. And then we'll just take, I think, this piece of 10 by 100 mil flat bar. Cut a little piece of that, mount that to the hydraulic cylinder, and then this is fixed on this end and the other end is fixed up here, and then this can just slide between here when the hydraulic cylinder goes in and out. And you can probably mount a piece of flat bar to the hydraulic cylinder many ways. The best way would probably be to weld it, but that seems kind of risky. And then because you have to take the seals out, if not you're probably gonna cook them, and also you risk shrinking the tube, so it seems not so smart to weld on it. So what I thought to do is just to kind of make a couple of hose clamps and just weld them to the flat bar, and then just tighten them down so we clamp this piece to the hydraulic cylinder, which I think will be pretty good way and simple. At least it will be risk-free. So yeah, let's see if we can go and make some fairly heavy-duty clamps. So let's just start with bending the end over, and it would be really nice to have an oxy-acetylene torch and just heat it up and bend it, but I don't have that, so yeah, that kind of sucks, but we'll try to do it anyway. And now it's just to try to bend this in a 95mm circle. So I got the other one made here, and well, they aren't particularly pretty, but it's not that very easy to bend them cold either, so I don't know. I think they should work just fine anyway. So let's just go ahead and drill 2 holes for 10mm bolts and get them cleaned up a little bit. And I did this one that I started bending here, I got to here, but the piece ended here too, so I had to weld on a little piece here. That's why it looks a little different, even if that's probably the nicest bend of them all. So, well, anyway, let's drill some holes. Trash. So these bolts won't really work. They're a little too long and they should be threads the whole way, but yeah, I looked and this was the only thing I found, so I have to probably go and get some. Yeah, I don't really need them now either, but yeah, like that. So there we go, got 2 clamps. They aren't the prettiest in the world, but they should work. So I did just go ahead and tack this together because I thought it's probably good to put this together too and then check that it all fits together before we get this full welded, because it's a lot easier to change it around when it's just tacked. And I got some pieces cut here. This is just 65 centimeters long. These are 7, 8, and these are 8 centimeters shorter. So it will look kind of like that. And then this will just go up there and leave quite a bit of gap. So these are not going to interfere. And this will not go any higher up when roughly flush with that. So I think that's looking pretty good. But yeah, and also I had to use this rusty flat bar because I didn't find any other 25mm wide flat bar. So, which is the right size. So yeah, let's just go and get this tack together.
And here you can see the clamp, or whatever you want to call it, is hitting the track. So this piece here just won't slide into the track. But I came up with a pretty easy solution, and that is just to take another little piece of flat bar and just put it between the big piece of flat bar and the clamp, just to space them up a little bit.
So this fits really well in there now. And it is quite sloppy. A little more sloppy than I like maybe, but at the same time it's pretty good to have it sloppy because this might not line up 100% straight. So even if it gets a little crooked, it's hopefully gonna slide back and forth nice and easy without jamming. So I think it's pretty good, and it really doesn't matter if it's a little sloppy. So pretty happy with that. So let's just go and get this welded up now. So, just got it cleaned up here and it's looking pretty nice, I think, except that it has quite a bow in it, which I don't really like. It seems to work just fine, I just don't like it to be all bent. So, I'd like to straighten it, and I still don't have a torch, but I have a forge burner that I built. I haven't used it much to forge stuff, but I used it quite a bit to heat stuff when I don't have an oxyacetylene torch, and it works okay for that, even if it's not that good. But let's use that and heat up these edges here and hit it with a sledge to try to straighten it out a little bit. And this is actually pretty heavy duty. When I was thinking how I'm gonna build it, I thought that maybe I should use a little thicker than the 5mm for this, but I'm gonna say that's more than plenty strong enough. It's probably kind of too strong, but better than being too weak, so. think it's a little bit better, but I don't know. Just the problem is it just takes forever to get it hot, especially if you want it to get it, especially if you wanted to get it red hot. So this still got a little bend going on in it, but it's a significant amount less than it was before. That one was pretty decent. Now it has more like a little bit of curve in it. I think it worked out pretty decent. It's not perfect by any means, but it's good enough anyway. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. And this still needs a little cleanup, but it does fit through here still. Now I can get to these, and these are just gonna be put there. And I could maybe weld them in place, but I think it would be nice to be able to take these apart. So just use one of these nuts, or whatever it's called. So we can just put that like that, and then just drill a hole for this and bolt these together. And that does look kind of weak. So I've been thinking a little bit, and I got another one of these nuts. So I think cut that in half, put these like that, and then put another nut there, and then connect these with a little piece of steel, and then that will be a much stronger mount. Because just a bolt through there feels like it would be quite likely, or it would be pretty easy to just bend this. And I just kind of changed my mind a little bit. Let's go and get the hydraulic cylinder put in place, and then just check that everything fits together like it should. And I had to bend this out a lot to get it past there. But that should just fit like that. I think that works pretty good, and then you just have to bend that in. But just because we are testing it now, I don't think that's really necessary. All right.
pull this out. Oh, there we go. That wasn't too hard actually. Oh, a little more.
So I think that looks pretty good, except that this is a little long. I did make it about 5 centimeters longer than it needs to be, so so I think we'll just cut that off 5 centimeters because it will get pretty close to here. So yeah, just cut that off a little bit. Here it seems to look pretty good, but except that it would hit here. So we'll just trim this down a little like that. Except that it does look pretty good, I think. Except that you can see the black line in there. And that's how far the rod can go in. And it would go into about here. But that means that the barrel here would hit, or the gland, or whatever, would hit here. And also, if you go down further, this is gonna get, well, hit here. So really what we have to do is just to cut this out a bit here. And we would probably need to cut this out too quite a bit. Like pretty much cut this right here to make it work. Which I don't like, because then this would look all, it wouldn't look symmetrical having this cut off here. But it's not much to do about that. Plus it's painted, so that kind of sucks. I thought about checking it before I got it painted, but well, I didn't, which probably was stupid, but it is what it is now anyway, so. And what I thought to do with these is just to take a little piece of flat bar, weld that onto the side like that. I just have one of these, so cut that in half and then weld that onto that pretty much. And then we can put 2 bolts on either side, which I think should be nice and strong. put these other pieces in place, and then I measured out the distance between the holes. So let's just go ahead and mark it on here and drill some holes. And almost made a little mistake here. I measured from the outside of the bolts, and if I go and mark that out, the holes would end up being way too far apart. So to get the center, you just have to subtract 1 bolt diameter. So this is not going to be a 70 millimeter. I'm going to subtract 12, and that will be 58. Which seems a lot more reasonable, because I started to think that it would be quite far apart. But yeah. And I'm just going to use 12.5 mil drill bit for a 12 millimeter bolt to give me a little extra playroom, because most likely the holes aren't going to end up in the exact right place. I do think it looks pretty good like that, but it's not that great right here. It's not too bad either. These are a little too long, and the holes doesn't line up perfectly, so we'll just have to take the die grinder and open them up a little bit. But yeah, I think that would work pretty good actually, except that it doesn't really line up that great there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. So we'll just have to make that line up, and then I think this is actually done. The guard, at least. So this seems to look pretty good. This angle is much better. I would say it's pretty good. Might could take a little more off of these, but I think it's pretty even the whole way. Still a little tight here maybe, so I could probably take a little more off of these pieces, but really not bad. Except when I tighten down these bolts, this face here, or this can't be 100% square to the pin, because when I tighten these down, gotta pull this a little bit that way, and this one pulls it a little that way or something, so it gets jammed. So yeah, it jams it tight, so you can't move it side to side, and it will be very hard to turn this way. So I'm gonna have to try to figure this out so it's not ending up being so tight. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. And I did go ahead and get these working. So when you get these bolts tight, it's not bending these and then jamming that to the pin. That's all nice and free now. And I just took and ground a little, if it was a little angle like that, I just ground that a little back so it's nice and straight like that. And with that done, this guard is finished, I think. Except a little bit of a cleanup, and then it's just to paint it and put it back finally. Actually, we got one thing left that I almost have forgotten. We need to drill 2 holes, like right there and right there, for some grease fittings. And then that one we'll just put in a 45 or a 90, and then we'll be able to get to that. Oh, there you go. And with that hole drilled for a grease fitting in both pieces, I think that is the last thing on the guard. So yeah, the guard is done now, except some paint. So and I'm just gonna go and get these pieces kind of cleaned up, ground down a little bit, and and then we can just go in and paint it. And as already said, the hydraulic cylinder is gonna hit here. So we'll just have to cut this up here, something like that. Not because I really want to do it, but because I have to, because it's gonna hit. So we'll just cut right up again along there. And then, well, I'll just see, something like that. So see, right there. I'll just cut that like right there. Like that. Like that. Make it a little round in the corner there, kind of. Cut it a little bit like that. And that will remove quite a bit of strings right here. And if I knew that this would hit, or thought about it, I would have made this a little longer, but I don't know. Now it kind of is like it is, so. And it's quite a bit of work to add on to this, and it won't look that very good, so I don't know. But let's cut this away, and on the other side too, obviously. And And then also forgot to trim this here because the inlet on the hydraulic cylinder is gonna hit here. So we'll have to trim this out. There was a lot of things I kind of missed. But yeah, it's not much to do about that except fix it. So let's fix it. Cut that out like that. And something like that. I think something like that would be good. Now I just have to weld these two plates together here because I cut off the old weld. And I just got it cleaned up a little bit here, and I actually think it looks pretty good. Even if you had to cut it out here, yeah, I think it turned out pretty good. So let's just go and splash some paint on this. Also, I got this painted here, and I did have to trim out a little more here because I was stupid and I didn't measure correctly the first time. So I had to trim off a little more here and here. I don't really like it because this doesn't line up anymore, this edge and here, but it is what it is. And I don't think the hydraulic cylinder is gonna hit it here anymore. So, well, let's just go and put everything together. There we go. And let's change this grease fitting out. A straight one won't work, but I think a 45 would be pretty good. And we can just put this one in this end instead. That's an issue. That's pointing. I want it to point that way. But then it's all loose. Just try to put a washer under there to kind of space it up a little bit. Oh, that seems to work pretty good actually. I'll just have to put a couple grease fitting in these two. Dang it. Destroying the paint. There we go. So we got the hydraulic cylinder place, we got the guard in place, and I think that looks really good. I'm super happy with how that turned out. And now these old hoses aren't in the best of shape, and they're also too short. So I got some new hoses and some fittings. So let's get that put together. And then I just got one of these 90-degree fittings. And this one got a nut, so we can screw this in. All right there. So you can put it at whatever angle you want, and then you can just tighten down the nut. And you can lock it in place at in any direction. 360 degrees like that. So it's just pretty straight like that. And just to do the same thing on this one. I think I'm just gonna put that straight up. Like that. And I'm just gonna have to try to remove these old hoses, which isn't gonna be that easy. It's not that much space here. Oh, there we go. You wanna? Well, now it's, there we go. Damn it. I just wanted to clean it up a bit around there. Now we're gonna remove these fittings here. Hopefully. At least that's what my plan was. But they seem to be pretty tight. There we go. that's a lot better. And now I had to remove those, and that is because the old hoses and fittings there were 3/8, if I'm not wrong. And here it was 1/2 inch. I decided to just go with 1/2 inch hoses the whole way. And I bought some 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapters, so that's why I have to remove the old ones. And then I got a little riser, or whatever that's called. So I don't have to do like this. So I can put that one all over that. So this one will, so that would be like this thing is down in there. But that was, anyway. So we're gonna put a washer on one of those. This is just a little, I don't know, metal washer with some rubber inside it. So when you squeeze this together, it seals. And we're just gonna screw these together like that. And make sure it's fairly clean here. And just screw these in there. Hopefully, at least. There we go. It's going kind of tight. There we go. And I'm not sure where each hose is gonna go, because it's 2 different lengths. And I think when you're pulling, you want the boom to go up. So I don't know if it's sending out oil there or there. So we'll just have to try it, and if it's wrong, we'll have to swap it around. I don't know how to get that tightened down. Can't really get to it. And the only way I can get in there is with a pair of pliers, so that'll have to work. That seems to be tight. It's kind of messing it up. I think that's tight enough though. And I think that's looking pretty nice like that. The only thing is that it's probably gonna end up rubbing against this and stuff. So let's get some protection on this up to here somewhere maybe. So I think that's a lot better having some protection on here now. And I think with that, well, not everything done, maybe pretty much everything now. But now let's just go and get this greased up, because then that's kind of finished up this stuff right here. And it's coming out plenty grease on the sides there. Same thing right there, it's coming out grease. And we're just gonna have to try to grease this up right here, like in here in the track kind of. And I can't get this in there to grease it up, but I got a little pipe that I put a grease fitting on the end, and that I can just get in there and get grease everywhere. I can just put that together. I think this works anyway. There we go. And this actually worked really well to get some grease in there. And with that greased up, I think, well, at least all this is finished. We might got a couple more things we need to do. But yeah, let's add some more oil, because we need to fill all this up, because that's all empty. And then it's just to see if this thing works. And it's about 5 liters left, so I'll just empty the rest of it.
And I do know the hoses is the wrong way. We should swap them around because I have to push the control forward to make the boom go up. I just didn't swap the hoses around, and if I should be honest, I still haven't done it a couple months later. I know it's kind of stupid, but yeah, I just just forgot about it kind of, and now I'm kind of used to running it the wrong way.
So far it seems to look pretty good. One thing that I knew that would be kind of a problem is that these hoses are gonna get a super sharp bend the higher you lift. But what I've been thinking about doing is just taking these, they're a slight bend now, but bending these a little more to make these hoses not having to go 180 degrees pretty sharp. Just bending those out, I don't know, closer to 90 degrees at least. So we'll have to do that. And then I think this is looking pretty good, and I don't think anything is gonna damage that rod now with that in place. Yeah, let's go ahead and see if we can bend these up, and I think that's hopefully the last thing we need to do to this. Just gonna have to remove these hoses, or move them maybe out of the way. And these hydraulic pipes are really not hard to bend. They're honestly kind of soft, so I don't think that should be that very hard. No, gonna have to start from that side. Now, oh, let's see. That seems to work really good. Just gonna have to, yeah, I think I'm just gonna cut this off. It really doesn't need to be long because it's hitting these other pipes. Huh. The problem here is I bend as much as I can there because it's hitting there. But I think I can just put a little piece of metal as a spacer there, and I should be able to bend it a little more. Would like it a little more, but I think that's looking pretty decent. And I'm just gonna loosen this up to kind of lift these pipes up to get the bender underneath of them. So I think that's turning out pretty good. It's not the prettiest job in the world, but these lines are already quite messed up, so it doesn't really matter. But I think that will turn out pretty good. Might should reroute that hose. But, I think that's looking okay. And I think this turned out good because especially because I just spent like 15 minutes or something making that bender. But yeah, I think that turned out okay. It's not the prettiest in the world, but you know, the rest of the thing isn't all that pretty anyway, so it doesn't matter. But let's see now if this is gonna work like I wanted to, or if this just was a big waste of time. So I think this is looking really good. I'm really happy with this. And now, even if this, I don't know if it would go that far, but even if I run it into here, it's just gonna hit this and not this, whatever. Now I forget the name for that. And yeah. I did think it maybe would go a little further, but I don't know. And here, it's not gonna hit, and I did cut out quite a lot more than it needed to be, but that's better than having too little at least. And these hoses seems to, even when you run it up all the way, these seems to loop fairly nicely right there. And then these hoses, I don't really know if this helped any, but it's not, they had to go down, and then this hose had to bend 180 degrees pretty sharp. So I don't know, maybe we should bend these more, I don't know. It's kind of, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it works like this. Still have to bend it fairly sharp, but whatever. I think that's pretty good. And this, well, you can't really see how high it lifted before, but I'm pretty sure it didn't lift that high, because now the boom is quite straight up. I don't think it was that straight before. And that's, if you remember from the last video where we did all this work replacing this hydraulic cylinder, that was just to get the boom to lift higher, and that was just because it did not lift very high as it was originally. I might have a picture I can put in here what it was before and how it is now, but I'm pretty happy with that. So yeah, I'm gonna call this thing finished. At least I don't think it's anything more right now. well, this right here at least. So yeah, and the next video will be doing some of this and some auxiliary hydraulics. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.